Console miniseries Adventurelands Part 24. I could see it was getting ready to charge again, but it never got the chance. Mr. Peralta was suddenly teleporting all over the place. Then, in the blink of an eye, he landed a devastating kick to the monster's lower jaw. He'd hit the at least 10-foot tall monster hard enough to lift all four limbs off the ground. It fell back down, slamming into the dirt, lifeless. Mr. Peralta nudged it with his toe over and over again. He was saying something, but I couldn't understand him at all through the window. After a few more moments, the monster's body disappeared, and our teacher was once again in the room, standing behind his desk. I was even more impressed by our teacher now. I'd always known that teleporting living things is possible, but only a few mages ever managed to do it safely. This professor was impressing me more and more with almost everything he did. If only he'd been able to manage to figure out how to help me cast a spell. Of course, if he'd succeeded there, I probably would have fallen for him by now. He may have mentioned having a husband, but sometimes I remember that if I try, I'm hot enough to probably win anyone away from anyone shy of a god or something like that. Dragon came storming into the room, practically shouting, "Who do you think you are, interrupting my battle like that? I'm almost tempted to fire you for that. Never get in the way of one of my battles again, or I'll I'll find something much worse than firing you or forcing you to watch over my kid." Mr. Peralta glared at the old woman, studying her. Then, after a tense moment, Mom angrily shrugged her shoulders and left without even looking at me once. I really wasn't sure if I should love that or be deeply hurt. I didn't want anyone to know that she's my mom, but being ignored entirely still sucks. Another moment later, Mr. Peralta took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "I have no idea how you live with that," he said under his breath while exhaling. He was obviously doing his best not to look at me as he said it. I did my best not to show any reactions, too. I just sat in my seat with my best poker face on. The class continued with no more interruptions. As always, when the lecture ended, I was free to do whatever I needed to while the rest of the class practiced casting spells. Ever since Mom found out I'd been getting sent home early, she'd been leaving a list of chores for me to do every day. But since I'd finally convinced her to let me move out for the first time, I had no chores or responsibilities. I was alone and completely directionless, the exact state I'd always hoped for. And now that I was here, it felt strangely hollow, like everything I'd worked so hard for was a complete waste. I was mindlessly wandering away from the school grounds when I heard another roaring bellow from off to the side. It came from so deep into the forest. Oh, sorry. It came from deep in the forest. It was so far past the training grounds that I assumed no one else would have heard it. My body had turned towards it before my brain could even figure out what was happening. Once again, the demon monster was right near me, getting ready to charge. I had no idea how he'd slipped through the forest so quickly and without making a sound. I looked around, quickly realizing that I was completely alone. I'd wandered so far from the rest of my class that there was no way even Mr. Peralta could get here fast enough to save me. The monster lowered its massive bovine head, pointing all four of its huge curled horns directly at me. I was so I was so scared that I was frozen in place. My brain began to overflow with the probabilities, leaving me trapped by the excessive thoughts running through my head. I was so scared I couldn't do anything. Then the beast began its charge. As soon as he started to move, so did I. I wasn't thinking. I didn't envision anything. My body just moved on its own. My hand flew to my controller, unholstering it more deftly than I'd ever done before. My arm stabbed out as my finger gently pressed the A button. I assumed I was dead no matter what I did, so it would make no difference if my body acted on its own. When while trying to when I was bored in my room alone when I was bored and alone in my room, I practiced doing this while trying to envision an imaginary target. But somehow this time felt different. It was like my very soul was vibrating as I moved through the motions. I'd felt similar sensations when trying to cast a spell before, but it had never been anything like this kind of intensity. As I felt the A button click into place, activating the control, the strange buzzing vibration moved it into my controller. Then I watched as the monster stopped in its tracks and grabbed its gut. It was clearly in pain and began to slowly collapse into itself. It crumpled up and yeah, I gotta change that until it completely vanished, leaving only a strange black spot hanging in the air where it had once towered over me. I stood there dumbfounded for far longer than I could keep track of. Some time later, Mr. Peralta appeared, once again seemingly out of nowhere. As I saw him, I began to shout without thinking. And just where in the name of good were you? I thought I was done for. I still don't know what just happened. How did I get... No. How did you get here? No. Shut up. I don't care. How did that thing get back here? After Mom beat it, it should have returned to the library where it came from. And after you snapped its neck yesterday, for that matter. So, he was here, Mr. Peralta mumbled under his breath, just loud enough that I caught it. As soon as I heard that, my strength finally gave out entirely, and I collapsed into his strong, waiting, open arms.